everybody. How are you? How you doing? Nice to see you. Hi, Pepper. Hey, J.B. Pritzker.
Becky Rossman, welcome to the Neighborhood
Hi,
House.
Becky. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Hi there, Jennifer Allison.
Hi, Jennifer. Nice to see you.
Hi, radio station, Christina.
Very good. Nice to see you. Hello, everybody.
You want to go this way?
I will follow your lead.
All right.
So we're headed down here?
Child care, preschool. Yes.
All right. I'll let you lead. How about that?
All right. I'm trying to stay on the map. So those are our babies. They won't be getting snacks. So we're going to go around this way. So you know we're in one of the poorest zip codes in the state of Illinois. So about 75% of our kids get child care connection. Their parents are working or going to school with below poverty line. And then we have another 15% that are DCF basketball.
Are you hungry? Hello.
You're
Hungry?
My name is Julia.
It is. My name is J.B. It's very nice to meet you. Hi. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody. Are you hungry? I know you're more excited about what's on this card than you are to see me. What's your name? I'm JB. It's so nice to meet you. What's your name?
Hey,
Can I help you hand out the snacks?
Hi, nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you.
Alicia.
Oh, Lisa and JB. Nice to know you. Hi, you guys. Hi. What's your name? You shake my hand? So nice to see you. Hi there. Oh, he's fascinated by your camera.
Jaden said, "Is that the president?" I said, "I wish."
I'm going to get you guys a snack.
All right.
And he's seen you on TV.
Are you hungry? This is grape juice. So good.
I love grape.
I do too. One banana and one for the grape juice man.
I can open it.
There you go. One banana and
I want two bananas.
Say thank you.
two bananas. How about we start with one?
Say thank you.
I'll get you one.
I got it too. I have a banana. I have a banana. I want to open my banana. I got banana.
Maybe I should get a cup.
I want to open my banana. I got my banana.
Was he a Republican or a Democrat? That's what I want to know. All right.
We're gonna send you the Democrat.
All right.
It's black.
Because you want to assume the best.
No, South Side of Peoria.
I got a bird. Jalen.
I'm going to make sure we open this.
You know, Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, snack?
Can we videotape?
Okay.
All
All right, let me make sure I open this properly without spilling, because you know what'll happen.
Open my banana.
Here's napkins over there.
She ripped it.
Okay.
You don't want me to open it? No? Yes or no?
Nope.
I'm being closely watched to make sure that I spill it. Here we
Oh
go.
my God.
That is for you. That's all for you.
Oh, there we go.
You
Take this away. And do you want some help with your banana?
I see.
Okay, here you go.
You need one of these?
I come up with the thing up.
There you go. So good.
Open my
Garbage here for him.
Yes, do you want me to help you? Of course. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Hold on to it right there. There you go.
I'm black. I'm
There it is.
brown and
Perfect.
white.
Okay, let me get that for you. Oh my goodness.
Brown and white.
Well, you've opened it
I didn't.
a different way. All right. You want to eat that part right there? Can you eat that? Uh-oh. There you go. I'll get that. Stay away from it so you don't get any juice on you, okay? Oh, thank you very much.
I'm black. I'm black.
Here you go. Want some more? Very good.
And Senator Taylor.
All right, all of you, someday you're thinking about running for governor, right?
Yes. We need politics.
Because then you get to come into a room like this and meet little kids who are having their snack, like I get to. It's very nice to meet all of you. Thank you very much for letting me interrupt your day. Nice to meet you. Thank you. I am when I eat too.
Me as well.
Focus on my food. Oh.
So if you want to, I can show you our kitchen. So the main thing we do here is feed people. So we feed over 1,000 seniors a year. We feed kids not only here but at 5 other locations because hunger is such a prevalent issue.
Yes, it is.
So we'll go right through here.
So one.
So we started feeding kids after school and then in the summer, and we started doing snack packs because they started telling us they didn't have any food at home either. So we're gonna go up this way. Trying to figure the best place to enter the kitchen. In here around 6 o'clock in the morning, start making the meals. We're out the door by 10:30, and then the driver's usually back by 1:30. So we have about a 4-hour window.
How long have you been in this facility?
Since 1971.
Wow. So this kitchen's been here
It is.
most of that time.
And it hasn't been remodeled, but even as we've grown, we've just added some equipment, and now we serve over 1,000 seniors every year. South Peoria and Castle County.
Well, and I know there were some cuts to Meals on Wheels that were proposed and fortunately not implemented in most places. And so now their program also
Five days a week. And then we also 150, and then in the summer we serve about 200 kids, and then an additional 500 kids for snack packs.
How long have you been there?
6 years.
Where were you before this?
Child advocacy center and youth kids.
Oh, wow. So you're from Peoria originally?
Rushville, small little farming town.
Sure. Terrific. Well, I'm gonna, let's see.
You want to be here for?
Over here.
Should we get around here? Okay. I wanna make sure
I'm gonna do a quick media thing. And then
Okay,
you
give
want-
us one. Hi, how are you?
Councilwoman Denise Moore.
Oh, Councilwoman, so nice to know you.
Nice to know you too.
thank
I
you.
was there in Springfield, Juliana, for the state treasurer's award.
Oh, great.
So I'm
Awesome.
glad you're here.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
in
for
my
being there.
district, actually. This is
Right
my
here.
district. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you for being here.
Oh, of course. Thank you. All right. Great. Well, I'll just start out by saying I'm thrilled to be here at the Neighborhood House and to learn more about the Meals on Wheels program, about preschool, making sure that the kids who need it most have available to them the meals that they need, something that we ought to be doing all across the state in every community where there are people in need. As some of you know, for a number of years, I've been involved with Share Our Strength, which is a program that has expanded school breakfast in the K-12 system all across the state. It's something that I believe in strongly, that kids ought to be fed before they show up at school or when they get to school. Many kids don't get breakfast before they start learning in the day, and it makes it much harder to learn. So it's terrific that so many kids are being fed, that so many seniors have available to them the Meals on Wheels program, and we're grateful for the work that Neighborhood House does. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Glad to be here in Peoria. I'm glad you raised it. So as many of you know, one of the first things that I tried to get accomplished, and we did in fact accomplish it, was raising the minimum wage in the state, and the result of that is that 1 million people will be lifted out of poverty across the state of Illinois. That's just the first thing. We also are, in my budget, increasing the amount of child care assistance available. You know that in Illinois, that child care assistance was significantly cut in the prior administration. We're not only restoring it back to the 185% of poverty level, but actually increasing it up to 215% of poverty level, heading toward 300% of poverty level with a sliding scale down, so that people at 300% get a little bit less than those at 250% and back to 200 and 185. Very important that kids have child care available to them, that parents have child care available to them so that they can get a job and keep a job. And so that's a second way that we're trying to lift people out of poverty. And then finally, as many of you know, I've introduced the graduated income tax for the state. It's something that I campaigned on. It's something I believe strongly in, that we ought to cut taxes for the working poor, for the working class, for the middle class in the state, and ask the wealthiest people in the state to step up to the plate. That's a hard thing to get accomplished, but I think we will. and we're going to make sure that the legislature considers it and votes on it this spring. For several years now, the university system and all the universities in Illinois, the public universities, have been underfunded. Indeed, there was a threat of taking away people's MAP grants, which also end up funding the schools. But it scares the students away, it reduces enrollment in the state, and therefore hurts all of our universities. Indeed, over the last 4 years, I think more than 72,000 kids chose not to go to school in the state of Illinois because of the threats against our university system and the scholarships that they would get. Those are kids who otherwise would be living here, would stay here. When they leave our state, 70% of them don't come back, and they get jobs elsewhere. And sometimes their parents get up and leave with them when they get an opportunity to go to school somewhere else. So we've got to do a lot for our university system. I proposed an increase in funding for our universities across the board in the state, and Western Illinois is just one of those universities that would get an increase under the budget that I put forward. We also held the line in general on spending overall, and we're very rational and balanced with our approach to the budget, and indeed it is a balanced budget.
Would that budget include scholarships as well?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the MAP grant program, we increased MAP grant funding and the number of kids who would get MAP grants by 15,000 more kids. And that's just the beginning. I want to increase MAP grants by 50% overall so that we could have as many as 70,000 more kids going to school in the state as a result of the MAP grants that I proposed. I know that Senator Kaler has been a real proponent of funding for these programs for higher education. We need to do that. I also increased funding in my budget for the AIM High program for those kids who can qualify for a merit-based scholarship, which has been a great thing for many universities across the state. There's much more that we need to do, and as I've said, we need a graduated income tax to help us get there, and I really believe that we will be able to lift up our universities and restore them to the level of greatness that they've had historically, and even better.
Governor, a capital bill and around the state.
Our roads and bridges across the state of Illinois are crumbling. So are the waterways and other infrastructure of the state. We haven't had a capital bill in Illinois for 10 years. So it's about time that we invested in our transportation infrastructure, in our vertical infrastructure for our universities, and in other projects. And we can do that with a capital bill that will get introduced this spring. You know, we are still talking with the Republicans and Democrats about putting that bill together, about what the funding sources would be. But suffice to say that investing in our roads and bridges and waterways and our vertical infrastructure is good for the economy of the state. It not only preserves jobs that are dependent on that, because we are the supply chain hub of the nation here in Illinois, but it also helps us to attract new companies and new businesses and new jobs. Yeah, I'm glad you raised it because we are standing in an agency that needs it. First of all, because we went 2 years in this state without a budget, and because the funding that many social services received was really court-ordered funding as a result of not having a budget, people had to go to court to get the funding that they needed. So it's time to be responsible with a budget, to balance it, to get it passed, and to make sure that we're investing in our human services across the state of Illinois. I have done that in the budget that I proposed. There's much more that we need to do. We're doing it with the resources that we have available today. But again, I'm so grateful for the work that people do in this state, that they deserve to get funding from the state because they're doing the work that the state needs to have done for people who most need it. So I'm very proud of the agencies that deliver for people like here at Neighborhood House, and I want to make sure that their programs are preserved and enhanced across Illinois. And Senator, you may have something to add here.
Just, I want to thank the governor for really bringing us back into focus on where our priorities should be, because that's what his budget address was all about. You know, this last 4 years, we've been just through some horrendous times. We've seen social service agencies just cut to the bone. Some of them did not survive that period of time. And so through the efforts of this governor, Governor Pritzker. He's going to get us focused back on where our priorities are. And the budget is the most important thing to tell the people of Illinois where our priorities are at. And that's what we've done. So thank you, Governor.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
I need to get a picture with you.
Well, I'd be honored.
My friend has a picture of that ex-governor. Every time I go and have dinner with him, I go to his house.
And he's got one of those on the wall,
Can
so
you take a
now.
picture of it, send it to me? I just want to get a picture with him. Thank you. I have you send it to me.
Why don't you get in there with him, and I'll take a picture of both of you. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I didn't even think of that. For coming.
Christy, I'm the Meals on Wheels.
Okay, so you actually make it all work.
I